Imagine you've just checked your mail or logged on only to discover your New Mexico LLC has been dissolved by the state. What now? Well, first things first, don't panic. You are in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we're going to demystify the Secretary of State's LLC reinstatement process and break down exactly how you can get your business back in good standing.
It is incredibly common to experience a moment of absolute sheer panic when you see that revoked or dissolved status right next to your company's name. I mean, it literally feels like the ground is falling out from under your business. But here's the real truth. This is just a procedural hurdle. It is absolutely not a death sentence for your company, provided you act purposefully and promptly.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with why your LLC was dissolved, move on to immediate steps to take, and then walk through the reinstatement process. After that, we'll cover filing, fees, and deadlines, look at life after reinstatement, and wrap up with a summary and a legal disclaimer.
Part 1. Why was your LLC dissolved? Okay, let's dive right into this by diagnosing the root cause. After all, you can't really fix a problem until you know exactly what caused it, right? So when we say your LLC was dissolved by the state, the formal legal term for that is administrative dissolution or administrative revocation. In plain English, it's an involuntary termination of your LLC's active status. Basically, it means you fell out of compliance with state laws, and as a direct result, the New Mexico Secretary of State stepped in and stripped your business of its authority to operate. If you leave this unaddressed, you could actually lose your limited liability protection, meaning your personal assets could suddenly be exposed to business debts, and we definitely do not want that. So why exactly did this happen to you?
Well, what's really fascinating here is how New Mexico completely differs from almost every other state out there. In most states, administrative dissolution usually happens simply because a business forgot to file its annual report and pay the fee. But New Mexico is unique. They actually don't require LLCs to file annual or even biennial reports. Now, because of this, admittedly awesome lack of paperwork, business owners often get this false sense of security. So the trap here is almost always your registered agent. Imagine a typical business owner who, say, moves their office across town but totally forgets to update the state. Under New Mexico law, if you fail to notify the state of an address change for your agent within 30 days, boom, they automatically revoke your active status. That single compliance failure, that's the culprit in the vast majority of these cases.
All right, Part 2. Immediate steps to take. Now that we've diagnosed the problem, let's pivot and focus on stopping the bleeding. These are the immediate triage actions you need to take right this second to set up your reinstatement. First up, you've got to verify your actual status by logging into the New Mexico Secretary of State Enterprise Portal. You're looking to see if your status says revoked or dissolved. Second, and this is absolutely critical, you must locate your exact revocation date on the portal. Seriously, write that date down on a sticky note. You are going to need it for your legal paperwork later. Third, run a really quick search to verify your business name hasn't been scooped up by someone else while you were inactive. And finally, figure out if you owe any delinquent state fees that might complicate your return to good standing. Moving on to Part 3, the reinstatement process.
All right, we've stopped the bleeding. Now it's time to cure the disease and walk through the actual reinstatement process itself. And heads up, the entire thing happens online now. The New Mexico Secretary of State literally no longer accepts paper filings for this, so you have to use the NMSOS Enterprise Portal. But I really want to highlight a crucial detail here. The state updated this portal in late 2024. So if you haven't logged in since before that update, your old credentials just aren't going to work. You'll actually need to register for a brand new account just to access your business records and file the reinstatement.
So here's the exact workflow you'll follow on the portal. You log in, but, and here is the twist, New Mexico doesn't provide a simple pre-printed form where you can just fill in the blanks for an LLC reinstatement. Oh no. Instead, you have to draft a custom statutory letter entirely yourself. Once you've drafted it up, you convert that letter into a PDF, upload it directly into the portal, and submit it along with your filing fee. Easy enough, right?
Now, because you're drafting this letter completely from scratch, it must perfectly align with New Mexico Statute Section 53-19-66.2. If you miss even one of these 4 legal declarations, your PDF is going to be rejected. First off, you must state the exact LLC name exactly as it appears on the state records. Second, you got to include that exact revocation date we told you to write down earlier. Third, you must explicitly declare that the grounds for revocation, like that lapsed registered agent we talked about, have either been cured or didn't exist in the first place. And fourth, you've got to include a statement confirming that your LLC's name satisfies the state's name distinguishability requirements. Basically, that just means it's still legally available. Honestly, just get these 4 statements clearly typed into your PDF and you are golden.
Which brings us to part 4, filing, fees, and deadlines. With all that paperwork drafted, let's shift gears and look at the financial realities here. And you can take a huge breath of relief right now because the base reinstatement fee for a New Mexico LLC is incredibly accessible. It's just $25. Seriously, that is a very low hurdle to clear to regain your corporate veil and legal protections. Now, standard processing online is generally quite fast anyway, often turning around within a few days. But hey, if you're in the middle of closing a big business deal or applying for a commercial loan and you need that active status like yesterday, there are expedited options. You can pay $300 for same-day processing or $200 for 2-day processing if you're in a pinch.
So the most crucial point here is understanding your timeline. You do not have forever to fix this. From the exact date of your administrative revocation, a strict 2-year clock begins ticking. You have exactly 2 years to file that custom PDF letter and pay your $25. If you miss that 2-year window, well, your LLC enters what the state calls revoked final status. At that point, the entity is permanently dead. You literally cannot revive it. You'd have to start completely from scratch by forming a brand new business entity.
Now, before you go and hit submit, I really need to warn you about a super common procedural trap. See, when your LLC gets revoked because of a lapsed registered agent, it is incredibly tempting to just try and declare your new registered agent right there in your custom reinstatement letter. I mean, it makes sense, right? But don't do it. State rules actually dictate that you cannot make unauthorized structural changes during the reinstatement process itself. Attempting to change your address or your agent directly on the reinstatement request will automatically cause a rejection. You've got to just get the entity reinstated first.
All right, part 5, life after reinstatement.
Let's move into the final phase and talk about how this builds your long-term success. Because getting your active status back, that's really only half the battle. You still have to officially fix the underlying problem. Immediately after your reinstatement is approved, you need to file a statement of change of registered agent with the state, which carries a separate $22 fee. This is the official way you attach your new, valid registered agent to the company. Next up, and this is big, while the Secretary of State doesn't technically require tax clearance to reinstate you, you absolutely must contact the New Mexico Taxation and Revenue Department to reactivate your gross receipts tax accounts and file any back returns. Otherwise, they might just shut you down all over again. And finally, if any of your core structural information changed while you were getting this whole mess sorted out, federal law requires you to file an updated beneficial ownership information, or BOI report with FinCEN within 30 days.
Part 6. Summary and legal disclaimer. We've definitely covered a tremendous amount of ground today, so let's quickly review a necessary legal boundary. Please note this professional disclaimer. The information provided in this explainer is absolutely intended to be accurate, helpful, and directly derived from state statutes and structural guides. However, it really should not substitute for direct legal or tax advice tailored to your very specific circumstances. Basically, if your company has complex debts, multi-state operations, or maybe some member disputes, please play it safe and consult with a qualified business attorney in New Mexico.
I want to leave you with this final thought. Now that you know exactly how easily an LLC in New Mexico can just silently dissolve simply because a registered agent lapsed, you really have to ask yourself, is your LLC's current compliance system actually strong enough to prevent this from happening again? I'd highly recommend taking the time today to audit your business practices, double-check your registered agent's active status, and ensure your corporate veil remains completely bulletproof. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay focused out there and keep learning.